At the Christmas table, my niece looked at my daughter and said, "Only the special grandkids get dessert." Everyone laughed. I helped my son with his shoes and we left. That night my dad texted, "We need the money by tomorrow." I replied, "Not my family, not my problem." The chat erupted. "Only the special grandkids get dessert." That's what my niece said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, while staring straight at my daughter. And the worst part? Everyone laughed. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't some throwaway kid comment. It was said with purpose, like a line that had been rehearsed. My parents chuckled. My sister smirked. Plates of pie and cookies started making their way around the table, skipping Ava completely. She looked at me, but not with confusion. She already knew. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a one-time thing. They never treated Ava like family. She'd felt it for years. I was the one in denial. I stood up. No yelling. No dramatic speech. Just quietly helped my son with his shoes, took Ava's hand and walked out. My husband stayed behind. He thought leaving would make it worse. He was wrong. In the car, Ava stared out the window the entire ride home. She clutched the little snow globe she brought with her, a cheap thing my in-laws gave her last week that she somehow thought was magical. She didn't ask why we left. He didn't have to. At home, I tucked both kids in and sat on the edge of my bed for a while, staring at the wall. My husband came in eventually. He said nothing at first. Then he told me that when I left, no one stopped eating. No one asked where we went. That night my phone buzzed. It was my dad. "We need the money by tomorrow." Not a question. Not a check-in. Just an order. Like nothing happened. Like I was still their safety net. Like Ava hadn't just been humiliated at their table. I stared at the message. I thought about all the times they'd called me dramatic for defending my daughter. All the holidays where Ava's gifts were smaller. All the times my sister's kids were praised for doing the bare minimum while Ava was ignored. I typed slowly. "Not my family. Not my problem." I pressed send. 2 minutes later my phone started vibrating nonstop. Group chat notifications one after the other. My mom accused me of ruining Christmas. Kelly said I was being a martyr. My dad texted again saying I was ungrateful and selfish, that after all they'd done for me, this was how I thanked them. I didn't reply. I opened the family group chat. Scrolled up. Saw photos of the kids opening gifts. Ava wasn't in any of them. Not even the background. I left the chat. Then I blocked every single one of them. I wasn't angry. I was done. I didn't sleep much. Not because I was second-guessing anything, but because I couldn't stop replaying it all in my head. Ava's face. That room full of people who were supposed to be family. The way they all laughed. Not one of them flinched. By the time the sun came up, I'd already made coffee and folded laundry just to stay moving. My husband left early for a shift he picked up to avoid being around the fallout. Ava came into the kitchen in her pajama pants, holding the snow globe like she had all night. She asked if we were going back to Grandma's house. I told her no. She nodded like she'd already assumed that was the answer. Around 11, I was in the middle of vacuuming when someone pounded on the front door. Not knocked, pounded. I looked through the peephole and saw my mother standing on the porch with her coat half-zipped and her hair pulled back like she'd gotten ready in a rush. I opened the door partway. She pushed it all the way open and walked in like she lived there. "No good morning. No how are the kids?" She went straight to it. "You embarrassed your father last night." That's all she said. I told her calmly that what happened at that table was disgusting. That no child should ever feel like they don't belong. That her granddaughter was being treated like an outsider under her roof and she didn't even blink. She didn't deny it. She doubled down. Said Ava was sensitive. Said I was creating drama out of nothing. That Emma was just joking and Ava needed to toughen up. Then she turned it back on me. How I've always been difficult, how I hold grudges, how I twist everything to make myself the victim. And then she slapped me. Just like that. It wasn't a big wind-up. Just quick and sharp and humiliating. Like she'd been waiting for an excuse. But the timing couldn't have been worse for her. My husband had forgotten his wallet and walked in just in time to see it. He didn't say much. He stood between us, told her she was never to set foot in our house again and opened the door. She didn't argue. She just muttered something about me ruining everything and walked out. The second the door closed, it felt like a wall dropped between me and the last 20 years of my life. Ava was in her room. She hadn't seen it. I sat with her later and explained that we weren't going to spend time with that side of the family anymore. I told her sometimes people don't know how to love right, even if they're supposed to. She asked if she did something wrong. That question broke me more than the slap. I told her no. I told her she was perfect. That evening my sister texted. She said Mom was a mess, that Dad hadn't spoken to anyone all day. Then she dropped the real reason she was reaching out. Our parents were in a financial bind. Something about refinancing falling through, debt piling up, payments due. She didn't go into details, just said they needed help. He said they need you. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed. You saw what happened. You saw how they treated my child. If you're still choosing to protect them, that's your decision. But don't ever ask me to. She replied once more. They're still your parents. I didn't respond. I just deleted the chat. No more chances. No more explanations. And this time I meant it. I didn't expect them to leave me alone forever. That's not how my family works. When they lose control, they don't back off. They find new ways to squeeze. It started around noon the next day. I got a message from my cousin Melissa, someone I hadn't talked to in months. She's not close with them either, she's been on the outskirts like me, watching, staying quiet. Her message said, you might want to see this. Attached were screenshots from the family group chat I'd left. The same one they'd always used to plan birthdays and fake like we were some tight, happy unit. But now that I wasn't in it, they'd made it a place to rip me apart. My dad had written, she's always had an attitude problem. Ever since high school. She's lucky we didn't kick her out back then. My mom followed with, she'll come crawling back. He always does. And that little girl? Already acting just like her. Then Kelly, I give it a week before she starts begging. She can't handle anything on her own. She's addicted to the drama. They didn't know Melissa was still in the chat, quietly taking screenshots. She told me she wasn't surprised by what they said, but she thought I deserved to know. I thanked her. I stared at the screenshots for a long time. I felt nothing. Not sadness. Not anger. Nothing. That scared me more than anything. Because for the first time in my life I felt like I didn't belong to them at all. That same afternoon, Ava came into the room holding her backpack. She said she wanted to pack early for our weekend visit to her other grandparents. My husband's parents. She picked out her favorite dress, the sparkly sneakers his mom had bought her, and a stack of drawings she wanted to show them. She said they always hang my pictures on their fridge. I nodded, smiled, and stepped out of the room before she could see my eyes. Around 6 that night, a message came in from an unknown number. Just a short one. Caroline, it's your father. You need to call me. This isn't a game. I didn't reply. A few hours later, another knock at the door. But it wasn't my mom this time. It was Kelly. Standing on my porch in a hoodie and messy bun, holding her phone like it might protect her. I opened the door just enough to let her talk, but I didn't invite her in. She didn't start with, sorry. She didn't mention Ava. She didn't even bring up Christmas. She said they're in trouble. Serious trouble. The house is about to go. The bank's been calling non-stop. Dad hasn't told Mom how bad it is. You're the only one who can fix this. I asked her why she thought that. Why, after everything they said, after everything they did, she still expected me to save them. She said, because you always do. I told her she needed to leave. She begged me to just think about it. Said if they go down, she goes down too. Turns out she co-signed on something last year. Some refinance deal that looked good at the time. I didn't ask for details. I just shut the door. Inside, the kids were on the couch watching a movie. Ava looked over and asked who it was. I told her it was no one important. He went back to watching. My husband came home around 10. I told him everything. Showed him the messages. Told him about the visit from Kelly. He said something that stuck with me. They didn't break you. That's why they're panicking. I didn't say anything back. But I thought about it all night. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they lost their favorite tool. And for once, I wasn't going to hand it back. The next morning, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It said, let's talk face to face. We can fix this. Dad. Fix what? My daughter's humiliation? My mother's slap? The years of pretending we were a family while they pushed Ava into the shadows? Or maybe he meant the debt. That was always more real to them than anything that happened at the table. I didn't reply. That night, I sat with my husband in the kitchen after the kids went to bed. We didn't even talk for the first few minutes. Just sat there in the quiet, listening to the hum of the fridge. Eventually, he asked if I was still thinking about them. I told him no. I wasn't. I was thinking about me. About how many times I'd cleaned up their messes, paid their bills, softened their image, and let them rewrite stories where they were the heroes and I was the dramatic daughter who just needed attention. They never once offered me help. Not when we were barely paying rent. Not when Ava was in and out of doctors' offices for months as a toddler and I was too exhausted to think. They never showed up when I actually needed them. But now that their roof was caving in, I was the answer. I finally asked my husband what he thought would happen if I caved. If I gave them the money. If I swooped in one more time. He didn't even hesitate. They'll do it again. As soon as they're stable, they'll go right back to pretending none of this happened. Ava will be back at the kids' table being ignored. And you'll hate yourself more than you do right now. He was right. The next day, Kelly showed up again. No warning. No shame. This time she had a plan. A printed one. A spreadsheet with numbers and interest rates and payment timelines. She laid it out on my porch table like we were business partners. She said if I covered just one of the loans, just one, it would buy them time. That my parents would be able to refinance the rest. That they'd come around, eventually, and realize what I'd done for them. I asked her one question. Just one. What if Ava had said that to Emma? In front of everyone. What if my daughter stood up at the table and said only the special cousins get dessert? What would you have done? She didn't answer. Just stared at me like the question didn't make sense. Because to her and to the rest of them, Ava wasn't on equal footing. She never was. I told Kelly this wasn't about money. It never was. It was about the way they raised us to think loyalty meant obedience. That family meant sacrifice, but only one direction. I said no. Firmly. For the last time. She left in silence. That night I got one last text from my mom. No greeting. Just this. You've turned your back on us. When you need us, don't bother calling. I didn't even block her. I just deleted the thread. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked at a photo of Ava on my phone, one where she was laughing so hard her eyes were shut, and I cried, not because I was sad but because I was proud. I had finally done what no one else in our family ever had the courage to do. I broke the cycle. The days after that were quiet. No texts. No calls. No surprise visits. It was the kind of silence I used to be scared of. The cold shoulder, the family freeze out. But now it felt like something entirely different. Like peace. Like a locked door finally staying shut. I noticed little changes first. Ava seemed lighter. Not in a dramatic way. Just more herself. She stopped asking when we were going back to Grandma's house. She stopped checking the mail for cards with her name on them. He knew. That weekend we went to visit my husband's parents like we planned. The second Ava walked through the door, his mom swooped her into a hug, took her drawings and stuck them all over the fridge like a gallery opening. His dad had already set up the old wooden train set in the living room, even though my son had outgrown it. He said he was just testing it for fun. They didn't ask about my side of the family. Not once. They didn't need to. They knew enough from the look on my face. From how my daughter clung to her grandmother like someone who had been starving for affection and finally found a full plate. After dinner we sat around their fireplace and drank cocoa. Ava leaned into me and whispered, "I like it better here." I told her me too. A few days later I got an email. Not a message. An actual email. From a name I didn't recognize, but the last name was familiar. My father's cousin, someone I hadn't seen since I was a teenager. He wrote, "Carolina, I heard there's some tension in the family. I don't know the details, but your father mentioned you've cut everyone off. I wanted to say, I think you're doing the right thing. You don't owe anyone your peace. Especially not people who gamble with it. Just wanted to tell you that." I read it 3 times. It was the first time in my life anyone from that side acknowledged that maybe I wasn't the problem. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Just reading it was enough. The next week Kelly tried one more time. This time through a mutual friend, someone from town. Said she just wanted to meet at a coffee shop. No drama, just talk. I declined. I already knew what she wanted. There was no apology coming. Just another attempt to wrap it all in guilt and history and hope I'd fold. But I wasn't folding. I was building something better. Not perfect. Not flashy. But solid. Quiet. Safe. The kind of family where no child ever has to wonder if they're loved. A month passed. No calls. No knocks. No messages. I thought that might be the end of it. Then one afternoon I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, but the handwriting was my mother's. I stood at the counter for a long time before opening it. Inside was a letter. 4 pages, front and back. It wasn't an apology. It was a list. A list of everything they'd done for me. How they let me stay when I dropped out of college. How they watched the kids a few times when I was sick. How they lent me money for the first car I ever owned. Not once did she mention Ava. Not once did she bring up what was said at the table. There was no acknowledgement of the slap, the texts, the begging, or the way they laughed at a child who just wanted to belong. She closed with this. You don't erase blood, Carolina. One day your kids will turn on you too. Maybe then you'll understand how we feel. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in a drawer I rarely open. Not to keep it, but to remind myself of what I walked away from. Of what Ava will never have to grow up normalizing. Later that evening, I watched my kids in the backyard. Ava was showing her brother how to make a snow angel without letting the hood of his coat drag. They were laughing about something. I couldn't hear what. I didn't need to. My husband stepped outside, handed me a mug of tea and asked, "Did they send another letter?" I nodded. He said, "Want me to burn it?" I told him no. Let it sit there. Like an old bill I'm never paying. He smiled. We stood there together watching them play. The sun was setting behind the fence, and for once nothing in me felt tense. No dread. No guilt. Just the sharp, clean stillness of a decision that finally stayed made. I don't know what'll happen to them. My parents, Kelly, all of it. I assume the house situation got worse. I assume they're still blaming me in rooms I'll never walk into again. Let them. I gave them decades. They gave my daughter silence. That's the trade, and I'll live with it. Because now, Ava gets to grow up in a world where love isn't conditional, where no one ranks her worth beside a cousin's dessert plate, and where her mother doesn't keep setting the table for people who never saved her a seat. This story won't end with reconciliation. There's no big family reunion. No tearful holiday repair. It ends here. With a daughter who knows her value. And a mother who finally remembered her own.